Sucking up to your grandkid is creepy. Pensioners like you should only show up at weddings or funerals. It happened on my adorable grandson's 4th birthday. My son's wife, in other words, my daughter-in-law, said so disdainfully and nonchalantly. I just planned a dinner party to celebrate my only grandchild's birthday. Amidst that, my daughter-in-law, who has always disliked me, finally showed her true colors in front of her son. If that's what she wants, I'll gladly cut ties. Are you sure? Don't come back regretting it later, I said with a smile, revealing a certain truth to her. I am Harper, 65 years old. Recently, my husband passed away. He just turned 75 last month. He had been suffering from a chronic illness and was given a limited time to live a few years ago. Despite that, he stayed by my side for 2 years longer than the doctors predicted. I am sad that my beloved husband is no longer with me, but I am truly grateful for his efforts until the end. Thankfully, I inherited several properties from my father, so I had rental income. Even when my husband couldn't work due to his illness, we could live comfortably because of that income. Besides, even after his death, there's another reason I can live normally. That is the existence of our 2 sons. We have the eldest son Andrew, and the younger Robert. Both are married, and Andrew has a 4-year-old son, David. The fact that my sons live relatively close eases my loneliness. With my husband's funeral over, life is slowly returning to normal. One day, Andrew and his wife Madison came to visit my house. This house is also Andrew's childhood home, but he rarely visits, so I asked him what was up. What's going on? You didn't even call. I'm sorting Dad's things, and the living room's a mess. We need to talk about something important with you. It's okay if it's messy. I just want to welcome you guys properly. Oh, where's David? He's at kindergarten, so it's fine. We're coming in. Although I tried to stop them, they proceeded down the hallway. Following Andrew, Madison silently tagged along. I followed them to the living room. They were already deeply seated on the sofa, with Madison fiddling with her mobile phone, legs crossed. I wonder what this talk is about. Madison seems as grumpy as ever today. I hope it's nothing too serious. I've never had a good impression of Madison since the beginning of their marriage. She's beautiful and has a great figure, but completely lacks charm. Even my husband had a troubled look when she came to greet us for their wedding. Our relationship has been far from good. I was worried for reasons like those. I was surprised when Andrew broke the silence. Mom, I want to be clear about this. Why don't you live with us? Live together? I was taken aback by his unexpected proposal. Sensing something from my expression, he hastily explained. I know, it's shocking to hear all of a sudden. But I've been worried, Mom. Ever since Dad died, I thought you might be lonely. Well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't lonely. Right? You're getting older, and living with us would be safer. You'd feel more secure with us around, right? That's true, but you guys have your own life, right? Interrupting me, he said with a broad smile. It's okay, no worries. He then took my hand and continued happily. Mom, Madison agrees with moving in together. Madison does? Actually, it was Madison who first suggested we live together. Really? Madison suggested living together? Given her attitude so far, it seemed like she didn't like me at all. Or maybe she's just not good at expressing herself? Various questions crossed my mind, but I was genuinely curious about her feelings. I turned to her and asked tentatively, Madison. Andrew said so, but is it true that you suggested we live together? It's true. I thought you might be lonely on your own. Is that so? Thank you. We thought living together would make David happy too. Don't read too much into it, okay? Though her tone was brisk, it didn't seem malicious. From the way the conversation was going, it appeared true that she suggested living together. Afterward, they kept persuading me. We're worried, so we'd like to move in with you as soon as possible. I was surprised by the sudden proposal, but since they insisted, I agreed to live together. We continued our conversation as they led, and finally decided to start living together the following week. Once the moving day was decided, they left briskly. Alone in the room, I resumed sorting my husband's belongings. While looking at family trip photos from years ago, I got lost in thought. I decided on the spot to live together, but was it really the right choice? Madison said that, but adding 3 people suddenly to this house, where it was just my husband and me. But living together with Andrew's family, that's a happy thing, right? I tried to convince myself that my choice wasn't wrong, though it felt almost forced. Despite my anxieties, I decided to shift my mindset toward living together. A week later, the day of their move was busy from the morning. The movers arrived while I was eating lunch, as they hadn't informed me of the time. In a rush to help with the moving, Andrew and the others were nowhere to be seen. In the end, I had to direct the movers on my own. Several hours later, they finally arrived. I wish you had told me if you were going to be late. I told Andrew, but Madison retorted before he could. Excuse me, but unlike you, we're busy, you know? You're always home and has time to spare, so be a little flexible. But there was so much stuff. It was really hard to direct the movers alone. We're offering to live with you, and you complain about this? Harper, you don't realize how lucky you are. I didn't mean. Whatever, we're tired, so please get dinner ready. Saying that, she lay on the living room sofa and started playing games. Her drastic change from her usual quiet demeanor left me stunned. Confused, I approached Andrew and asked in a low voice, Andrew, Madison suggested living together, right? Because she was worried about me being alone. Yeah, that's right. That's why we moved in early. But what she just said. You heard it too, right? It doesn't sound like she's worried about me. Just let it go. Mom, don't do anything unnecessary. Just listen to what Madison says and do what you want. Andrew. He wouldn't even make eye contact. At that moment, I began to feel uneasy. 2 weeks after we started living together, my fears soon became a reality. My conversations with Andrew, who had said he was worried, were minimal. Madison had quit her part-time job, which she had held until the move. Becoming a housewife didn't mean she helped with housework. She just lazed around the house every day, not even touching the laundry. From grocery shopping to cooking, to cleaning every room, everything was left to me. Even if I asked Andrew, he wouldn't say anything to her, perhaps afraid of being disliked. So, I decided to speak up to her directly. Madison, I hate to ask, but could you at least take care of your own things and help out with the housework? What? Harper, are you ordering me around? It's not an order. It's just that the current situation is too much for me. I don't care. Aren't you grateful that we're living with you? Just so you know, Harper, you are lucky. You should be aware of that. She dismissed my words mockingly, not taking them seriously. At a loss for words, she added one more thing. Oh, by the way, David's birthday is coming up, so please book a nice restaurant. No casual eateries or anything like that. Madison, you just want to use me for your convenience. What are you talking about? It's for David. You should be happy to celebrate your grandson's birthday, right? But still. Anyway, please do it. If you don't make a reservation, I'll tell David it's his grandmother's fault. How could you? With those threatening words, she laughed with a sarcastic smile. And she left the living room, looking down on me. What's going on? Wanting to live together because they're worried, that was a lie. She just wants to use me. Using David as a threat is unbelievable. A rebellious spirit grew within me against her. But thinking of David, I couldn't put my feelings first. Reluctantly, I decided to book a certain restaurant for my dear grandson. The restaurant was one of the properties I had inherited from my father. When I signed the contract, I was made the nominal owner at the suggestion of the restaurant. I called the restaurant and explained the situation, and they agreed to open a private room. I just want to have a wonderful time with everyone for my grandson's birthday. With that thought, I buried my complex feelings towards Madison deep in my heart. A month later, David's birthday arrived. Andrew, Madison, David, and I went to the reserved restaurant. We were shown to a private room and handed menus. Seeing the prices listed, Andrew and Madison exchanged surprised looks. Apparently, since they had never been to such a place, they started to complain quietly. "It's too expensive. This price is ridiculous." Indeed, that restaurant was on the pricey side but offers quality to match. However, it was not just for adults. They also had delicious dishes that children could enjoy. I was sure David will be delighted. Thinking so, I had reserved a birthday cake over the phone. I smiled at David, who was fidgeting excitedly. "David, today is your birthday, so you can order whatever you like." "Really, Grandma? Can I?" "Of course. They have your favorite hamburgers and gratin. Pick whatever you like." "Yay! Thanks, Grandma." His unclouded smile instantly purified my heart. On the other hand, his parents were glaring at me the whole time. When it comes to ordering, they chose the cheapest pasta. When I asked if that was all they wanted, they nodded reluctantly. I wanted them to enjoy something delicious, so I selected some of my recommended dishes like appetizers, salads, carpaccio, and a meat main course. As I ordered, they looked at me incredulously, probably thinking they had to pay. In fact, I had been only asked by Madison to reserve the place. But wanting to treat everyone to that restaurant's food, I had no intention of making them pay. I just wanted my grandson to enjoy delicious food and have a happy time on his birthday. When I use the restaurant, I don't pay the bill. Instead, the amount I spend on meals is deducted from the monthly rent. No need to worry about money. With that thought, we waited for the food to arrive. During that time, Andrew and Madison hardly spoke, just whispering to each other. Usually, Madison interrupts, so I took that chance to fully enjoy my time with David. Several hours later, the meal ended, and finally, the cake was brought in. At the sight of the impressive cake, David exclaimed in delight, "Wow!" In contrast to my joyful grandson, his parents wore bitter expressions. Thinking that their mood was ruining the birthday party, I called the waiter and ordered a dessert platter for the adults. Hearing that, Madison burst out with her face turning red. "Hey! Can you stop ordering whatever you want? You're just going to make us pay, right?" "What are you talking about? I never intended." "Shut up! I saw earlier you didn't bring your usual wallet. I was foolish to ask an old lady like you. I can't believe you reserved such an expensive restaurant." "Madison, please, that's rude to the restaurant. Don't worry about the bill." And David is so happy. "Sucking up to your grandkid is creepy. Pensioners like you should only show up at weddings or funerals." That was when I first realized the immense anger was growing within me. I asked the waiter to take David out of the private room. Facing Andrew and Madison, I spoke in the coldest tone possible. "Enough. How can you say such things without any remorse? Suddenly moving in, not doing housework, not contributing financially. And now you tell me to not get involved? This is no joke." "What? It's because you reserve this place. Ordering expensive items. You're just trying to get back at us, right?" "This is my restaurant, you know?" "What?" "This is one of the properties I inherited from my father. I became the owner just in name when I signed the contract." The chef was grateful to him. As I explained, Andrew's face turned pale. By the time I finished, he was in shock. Meanwhile, realizing she wouldn't have to pay, Madison spoke up loudly. "Oh. So we don't have to pay? Because it's your treat?" "Yes, it is. But this will be the last time." "Huh?" Her face froze at my words. I made it clear to her. "I'm fed up with living with a couple like you. I won't take care of you anymore. I don't even want to breathe the same air. I was foolish to be deceived by your words about being worried. Don't ever involve me in your lives again." "Wait, Harper, what are you talking about?" "I'm grateful you gave birth to David. But this is my limit. I won't have anything to do with you guys, even at weddings or funerals. Don't contact me, no matter what. You guys are no longer my son or daughter." The two of them teared up. I quickly gathered my things, breathing heavily. As I was leaving, David asked with looking puzzled, "Grandma, are you leaving?" "I'm sorry, David. We might not meet again, but take care." "Really? I don't want to not see you." "Thank you. Grandma will always pray for your happiness." While I saw him look sad, I stroked his head and left the restaurant. I didn't look back, afraid my resolve would waver. Later, I called my younger son Robert and explained everything. He was furious with Andrew and advised me to end the cohabitation immediately. Upon arriving home, I packed the essentials and headed to Robert's house. They offered to let me stay until I found a new place. A few days later, I decided to sell the family home. It was sad to let go of the house full of memories with my husband, but I didn't want to leave Andrew's family free rein anymore. The house was quickly sold, and they were soon to be evicted. Without me bearing the living expenses, their life changed drastically. Although they managed to move into another place, apparently, they constantly fought over money. Robert received requests for help but blocked Andrew's number, knowing the situation. The only regret I had was David, but it was a fitting outcome for them. As for me, I'm enjoying a peaceful life in my new house. Robert's family visits me regularly, so I don't feel lonely. I plan to enjoy my independent life while I'm still physically able. On the day of my beloved niece's wedding, like she was my own child. "Actually, the choir we booked for today won't make it in time due to an accident. Please. I understand your situation, but I'm begging you, sing for my daughter's sake." The venue manager, Mr. Brown, and my sister Linda pleaded with me. I, a former opera singer, had decided 20 years ago never to involve myself with opera again. Yet, if I don't sing now, my precious niece's wedding will end imperfectly. I'll sing with all my heart. After making that resolution, my life took a dramatic turn. My name is Nancy. It's been 25 years since I married my husband, Paul. Nancy, it's our 25th anniversary this year. How about we take a trip somewhere? I'm surprised at you suggesting that, Paul. I thought I was the only one excited about celebrating our anniversaries every year. That's not true at all. I'm just a poker face. We're celebrating 25 years of marriage. Perhaps it's because we never had children. But that never happened. Meanwhile, my sister Linda, who married around the same time as me, has a daughter, Betty. That's why I used to struggle with the lively interactions of Linda's family when we all gathered. It felt like the happiness of a family with children was being flaunted in front of me. But those feelings belong to a distant past. Delighted by the travel proposal from my husband, I immediately called Linda the next day. "Did you guys do anything for your 25th anniversary?" "Yes, the three of us went on a trip. It was fun." "A trip, nice. By the way, speaking of which, Betty is getting married." "Really? Congratulations!" I was thrilled by the surprise news from Linda, my voice brimming with excitement. The greetings between our families were already over, and it seems the wedding is set for November, 3 months from now. Linda asked us to attend Betty's wedding as a couple, and I happily agreed. I was genuinely delighted about Betty's wedding, whom I cherished like my own child. Betty will be so happy. "And Nancy, there's one more favor I want to ask of you." But the next moment, my face clouded over upon hearing Linda's words. "Betty is looking for someone to sing a hymn at her wedding. Nancy, won't you sing? The venue can arrange a choir for the wedding, can't they?" Trying not to let my irritation show, I kept my voice as calm as possible. "I want you to sing." I kind of understood what Linda was getting at. But this request is something I can't accept. Wanting to end the call quickly, I let my emotions take over and raised my voice. "I can't do it. I decided not to sing ever again after that day. I'm glad to attend the wedding, but I won't sing." With that, I hung up the phone, ignoring Linda, who seemed about to say something else. My heart was pounding loudly. The image that came to mind was of myself, crying in a hospital room. The truth is, I used to be an opera singer until 20 years ago. I loved singing since I was little. My family always praised me when I sang loudly. That joy made me sing anytime, anywhere. Especially a famous hymn I often hummed. I didn't understand the lyrics at all, but I somehow liked it and eventually became interested in opera. Encouraged by my parents to master what I loved, I studied vocal music in college and then worked hard at an opera training center to become an opera singer. I thought I was invincible, being able to make a career out of what I loved. I didn't even notice my body was screaming out in distress. By the time I realized, the seed of happiness inside me had shattered. I cried my heart out. It was then I decided never to sing opera again. Remembering the painful past made my head ache. I glanced at a photo on the windowsill. It was taken last year on our anniversary with my husband. Everything's fine, I'm happy now. I reassured myself while taking deep breaths. I managed to calm myself down. I interacted with Linda as if nothing had happened, and finally, the day of Betty's wedding arrived. The sky was high, the air crisp, and the chirping of birds echoed. Next to the family waiting room was the bridal room, and seeing Betty in her beautiful bridal dress, I couldn't hold back my tears. It's overwhelming, the feeling of a daughter getting married. The groom had kindness oozing from his face, a wonderful man. Betty, smiling beside her groom, looked the most beautiful I'd ever seen. Into this blissful atmosphere, a venue staff member rushed over with a grim face. Worried about what had happened, I peeked into the bridal room and saw the manager, Mr. Brown, repeatedly apologizing alongside the staff. The faces of the bride and groom clouded over as they listened to Mr. Brown. Betty, trying not to ruin her beautifully made-up face, was holding back tears, but drop by drop, tears streamed down her cheeks. As I watched with concern, the manager Mr. Brown and Linda approached me.
Actually, the choir we booked for today won't make it in time due to an accident.
Hey Nancy, please.
I fully understand your circumstances, but for Betty's sake, won't you sing?
The manager, Mr. Brown, and Linda pleaded with me. Memories of the past resurfaced.
I'm sorry, but the baby inside you has already passed away.
The harsh reality hit me as I lay in the hospital bed. A year into my marriage, still in the early stages of my opera career, I took on even the smallest jobs to build my career. In addition to that, I never missed a day of practice. I had no days off, and my days were so busy that I hardly had enough time for sleep or meals. I thought I could push myself further since I was doing what I loved. That's what I thought. Then, I discovered I was pregnant. When I found out about the pregnancy, I was genuinely happy. But at the same time, I became desperate to increase my fame while I still could, pushing myself harder than ever before. However, during a rehearsal for a concert, I experienced a pain in my abdomen like nothing I'd ever felt before. I collapsed and was rushed to the hospital, where the doctor informed me that I had miscarried.
I'm so sorry, my baby. It's all my stupid fault.
Nancy, calm down. It's not your fault. My husband said, holding me tightly, but his warmth only made the pain and guilt worse. I was tormented by self-blame and spent many days mentally and physically unstable. To add to the misfortune, subsequent tests revealed that my ovaries were afflicted with cancer. It was in the early stages, with no symptoms yet, so there was a high chance of a complete cure through an oophorectomy. So, I underwent the surgery immediately, and it was a success. There was no metastasis. But I was left unable to ever conceive again. All that remained was a sense of emptiness. The baby had died because I was too obsessed with opera. And then, as if it were divine punishment, I was rendered infertile. At that time, I was emotionally unstable, crying every night, and I cried so much that I developed inflammation in my throat and lost my voice.
I can't possibly sing opera like this.
My husband just silently stayed by my side as I tried to smile through the sadness. Even after my throat healed, I never felt like singing opera again. I decided that I should no longer involve myself with opera. With that, I discarded everything related to opera. At that time, I was trying to atone for the baby that couldn't come into this world by eliminating opera from my life. This is the hymn that was scheduled to be sung today. Brought back to reality, I looked at the score that the manager, Mr. Brown, had handed to me, and it was the name of the hymn I used to sing. This song. Unconsciously, my hand went to my stomach. It was a song full of memories for me, one that my mother used to hum when I was little. And it was the song I, who was supposed to become a mother, gently sang to my unborn baby while stroking my belly every day. Nancy.
I think everyone is waiting for your song,
my husband said, nodding gently.
Should I really sing it?
Linda gently held my hand. I want you to sing, Nancy. I grew up listening to your voice. What are you saying? We laughed together. Linda's words suddenly lightened my heart. The choir not being able to come today must have been fate. This chance given by God. I'll give it my all. There's only 1 hour left until the ceremony starts, but can you sing?
Yes, I'll sing with all my heart.
I immediately started vocal warm-ups in a separate room that was hastily prepared. It had been 20 years since I'd sung with such earnestness. Nancy, you haven't changed. I love your voice, Linda said. Tearing up, Linda said this, and in response, I playfully flashed a peace sign. Then, the wedding ceremony began. In the solemn atmosphere, accompanied by the sound of the pipe organ, the bride and groom made their entrance. Linda, and her husband too, couldn't hold back their emotions, and tears flowed freely. I wondered if I had become a mother, would I have felt the same? I gently closed my eyes. Mom, let's sing together. My child, humming a hymn, said this. Where did you learn that? Surprised, I asked, and my child replied. You always sang it, didn't you, Mom? I could hear your voice even when I was in your belly. I love your voice, Mom. I love Mom's singing too. Could such a future have been mine? Suddenly, I felt a tear roll down my cheek. My husband gently held my hand. You might be nervous, but it'll be okay, Nancy. I love your singing. Encouraged by my husband, I smiled, nodded, and stood beside the pipe organ. I hoped everyone present, the bride and groom, and all the guests, would find happiness. I sang with all my soul. It's strange to say it myself, but after 20 years, my voice was clear and strong, and I believe the feelings in the lyrics, and my emotions, reached everyone. Linda, her husband, and even my parents cried listening to my song. It was then I realized, everyone had been quietly waiting for my song. I felt incredibly fortunate for the people around me. I was truly glad I sang today. And when the applause enveloped me after I finished singing, I felt refreshed, finally liberated from the past. Nancy, that was truly wonderful. I got goosebumps. I've never heard Nancy singing before. If I have a baby, I want to play Nancy's songs every day. As the wedding ended and we returned to the family room, Linda and the others rushed over. I was simply happy that everyone was pleased. It had been a long time since I'd felt this way. My husband stood by my side, supporting my shoulder, so I leaned on him gently. His warmth amplified the sense of accomplishment for having delivered my song to everyone, not the guilt I felt when I miscarried.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to sing in front of people, really. I was able to say goodbye to my painful past today.
Hearing my words, my husband seemed on the verge of tears again. Why are you crying, Paul? Nancy, let's continue to overcome everything together as a couple. Always. I felt his grip tighten. Being said this in front of the day's stars, the bride and groom, felt somewhat embarrassing, and I playfully flashed a peace sign to hide my embarrassment. We want to be a couple like you, Nancy, even after decades. You'll have to share your secrets with us sometime. As we chatted warmly, the manager, Mr. Brown, approached. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Oh no, I'm glad I could help in some way.
Can I ask you something? Did you sing at a wedding venue about 20 years ago? Yeah, I did a bit of part-time work when I was in college. I had worked at a wedding venue during my college days. Back then, the manager who discovered I specialized in opera took a liking to my singing and let me perform at several weddings. When Mr. Brown mentioned the name of the wedding venue where I had my part-time job, I was taken aback. It turns out my parents had their wedding there. Mr. Brown began with a nostalgic tone in his voice. He went on to say that both of his parents were remarrying. Mr. Brown was brought by his father and his sister by their mother. They married when he was in the 1st grade, and their ceremony was at the wedding venue where I worked part-time. Back then, even though he actually liked his mother and sister, he was too embarrassed to show kindness easily. He was also embarrassed about the wedding and had been stubbornly reluctant to attend until the last minute. But when I heard you singing the hymn at the venue, I somehow managed to open up. From that day on, I truly became part of a real family with my mom and sister. And your singing today was just like it was back then. Mr. Brown looked at me with shining eyes. I had no idea my singing had reached someone in such a way. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how happy it makes me that my singing has lived on in your heart. Thank you. I realized my singing had reached people, even without my frantic efforts to gain recognition. After today, I felt ready to face life head-on. 2 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from Mr. Brown. Hello, it's been a while. I have a favor to ask of you. He wanted to hire me as a choir for a wedding. Apparently, someone had posted my singing on social media, and there were multiple inquiries for me to sing. If there are people who want me to sing, then I definitely want to do it. I immediately agreed. The power of social media is incredible. Even the company that used to employ me as an opera singer reached out. So, the company I used to work for asked if I wanted to try opera again. I discussed it with my husband. That's fantastic! What do you want to do, Nancy? I want to stand on stage again as an opera singer. My husband smiled and nodded repeatedly. I support you, Nancy. Just remember not to overdo it. Understood. Thanks, Paul. With my husband's encouragement, I started practicing again, dreaming of returning to the stage. 5 months later, my voice filled the theater. The audience's gaze was fixed on me, and I delivered a soulful song to their hearts. Over these 5 months, I did everything I could, from physical conditioning to vocal practice, to bring myself into the best shape possible. Looking at the audience, I saw people moved to tears by my singing. This was the scene I had always wanted to see. During the curtain call, I was so overwhelmed that I almost cried myself. The endless applause enveloped me, and I felt a happiness unlike any before. Glancing at the front row, I saw my husband, watching over me with a gentle gaze. The husband who silently stood by me during tough times. The husband who quietly watched over me until I recovered. And the husband who loved my singing and encouraged me to pursue it. Paul, thank you so much. My life, now shining brightly again, please continue to walk this path with me. I couldn't wait to share these feelings with my husband. To celebrate, let's all chip in and buy a new house. Really? That's amazing. I'm so happy. We've already secured the land, and construction has begun. All that's left is for everyone to contribute. Neil, my husband, announces this with a beaming smile. Wendy, my sister-in-law, is also overjoyed, jumping around in excitement. Seeing their reactions, the relatives, initially shocked by his statement, now wear warm, amused smiles. Surely, that's too much. Sissy, are you really okay with this? Only Bert, my brother-in-law, looks concerned, asking me hesitantly. Don't be shy. It's all good, right? Neil, buoyant, turns to me. To which I respond. Huh? Why should we? The baby is yours, isn't it? I state. What? The celebratory mood freezes instantly. What do you mean? Is this child Neil's? Sissy, what are you talking about all of a sudden? Yes. This child is definitely Bert's. Neil and Wendy start panicking. Everyone looks at me, bewildered. Observing their reactions, I decide to call someone to the scene. I'm Sissy. 25 years old, newlywed in my first year of marriage. My family is what you'd call wealthy. We own several large properties, some of which have apartments built on them. All are in prime locations and are usually fully occupied. The rental income alone is more than enough for a comfortable life.
Sissy, would you mind checking on things with me as a learning experience?
Sure, of course. The apartment management is overseen by my maternal grandmother, Marcia. Meanwhile, my paternal grandparents and parents run a farm. Using vast lands, they produce delicious vegetables daily with many employees. Our vegetables are famously tasty, supplied to renowned hotels and popular restaurants.
I'm thinking of taking over the farm. Is that okay with you, Sissy? That's fine. I prefer managing the apartments.
My brother Ralph and his family are set to inherit the farm. Ralph has always loved farming and chose to continue it without anyone's prompting. His family is similar, enthusiastically working in the fields alongside the employees. So, I've been helping with apartment management. No one opposed our choices, everyone was happy we were continuing the family business.
I'm getting older, so maybe it's time to pass on the management to Sissy.
So, I'll soon be taking over the business completely. With this setup, I should be able to live comfortably on passive income. Focused on the family business, I became indifferent to romance. I hadn't had a boyfriend for years, let alone considered marriage. Concerned, my parents set up a party.
Hi, I'm Neil. Pleased to meet you.
That's where I met my husband, Neil. He's 2 years older and knew many things I didn't. His maturity quickly attracted me. I like people who work hard. Encouraged by his words, I started a side job with Marcia's permission. You're doing your best. Impressed by my efforts, Neil proposed. I have a brother, Bert. He'll inherit the family home. Neil works for a multinational company, and we live a prosperous life. My parents-in-law are lovely, welcoming me warmly.
I'm thinking of farming in my retirement. Can you give me some advice?
My father-in-law, Isaac, always smiles kindly when he says this.
Sissy, do you also enjoy handicrafts? That's great. I'm the only one interested in it here.
My mother-in-law, Caddy, and I bond over our shared hobby, enjoying our conversations. Living with my brother-in-law Bert, a calm person. I felt grateful to have joined such a wonderful family.
Oh, Sissy, you're here. Sorry to intrude, Wendy.
My in-laws are great, but there's one troublesome person. That's Wendy, Bert's wife, my sister-in-law. Apparently, Bert and Wendy have been childhood friends. That's why I had no issues with moving in together. We've been close since childhood. They treat me like their own daughter.
Is that so?
Every time I visit my in-laws, Wendy says this boastfully. Also,
Neil prefers.
And
he likes this better.
She tells me these things I didn't even ask for. She wants to revel in the superiority of knowing Neil better than I do.
Well, thank you for telling me. I'll keep that in mind.
My response finally frees me from the conversation.
Wendy, that's rude to her. Sorry, Sissy. Don't mind what she says.
Bert immediately scolds her, and Neil supports me, so I don't take it too seriously. I guess she feels I've intruded on their relationship of 3 and dislikes my very presence. Only time can solve this. So, I've decided to take it easy and deal with it slowly.
But I'm happy to hear about your preferences and past.
Sissy, you're so positive. I'm a bit embarrassed, but that's what I like about you. Neil appreciates my positive outlook. And that's why I can let Wendy's words slide off me. Our house is within walking distance from my in-laws. So, we are often called over. And participate in most family events there.
Sissy, we're happy you visit us, but don't you need to see your own family?
Yeah, it feels like we're monopolizing you. My parents-in-law expressed their concern. My family's house is occupied by Ralph's family, and they're always busy regardless of any events or holidays. We also do greenhouse cultivation, so the season doesn't matter. There are employees, so there's no need for me to help out. That's why I don't visit my family's home much. When I explain this,
I see, you're busy. Then, relax and make yourself at home here,
they say with kind smiles. Just as I'm about to smile back.
It's pitiful you can't go back to your own home. Don't you think it bothers my parents?
Wendy interjects. My parents-in-law look exasperated.
You shouldn't say such things. I've always thought this, but you really should stop meddling.
Wendy bristles at their words, but is soon calmed by Neil and Bert and turns away with a huff. It's hard to get along with her. This is going to be a long battle. Watching Wendy, I think that way.
Today might be late again, so feel free to go to bed first.
Is that so? Must be tough. Neil has been coming home late lately. Apparently, it's a busy period. I have deadlines but no busy season, so I can't relate. All I can do is trust him and see him off. It's okay. Just busy. Despite my suspicions, I reassure myself. Waiting alone for his return. Huh? You're still up? He comes home late tonight again. His gentle voice is as usual.
I was working until just now. Have you had dinner?
Don't overdo it. I had a light meal, but I'm a bit hungry. Can I have a snack? I agree to his request and approach to take his bag.
Why don't you take a shower while I prepare?
Then I'll take you up on that offer. I offer my hand to take his work bag, and he heads to the bathroom. Then, I smell a perfume I've recognized before.
This.
What's wrong? He asks, tilting his head as I pause.
I smell perfume.
I say honestly. His gaze flickers for a moment.
Ah, the perfume of the person I dined with today was strong.
It might have rubbed off.
I see.
Let me wash it off quickly. Neil heads to shower, and I prepare a snack. Meanwhile, I try to recall the scent.
That's right. It's Wendy's perfume.
It's the new perfume Wendy bragged about.
Is it popular?
What is? Neil, who suddenly speaks from behind. Startles me.
The scent of the perfume from earlier. It's the same as the one Wendy was bragging about. I was wondering if it's popular.
Maybe it is. Neil seems unsettled by my words. But I just shrug and serve the snack. That night passes without further incident, and we go to bed. I'll be going then. I'll try to come back as early as possible.
Take care.
I send off him the next day and put his clothes from yesterday into the washing machine. Then, a pair of earrings rolls out of his pocket.
These, Bert made them as a hobby, a one-of-a-kind item. Neil isn't skilled enough to make something like this.
That's what Wendy had bragged about. Honestly, until yesterday, I thought it was just a coincidence, but now it's confirmed. What should I do now? I couldn't just leave things as they were. Clutching the earring, I pondered my next move. Sometime later, I received a call from my in-laws.
Wendy's pregnant. I'm going to be a grandmother. Really? Congratulations.
It was news of Wendy's pregnancy. Hearing this, a possibility crossed my mind. Sissy, what's wrong?
I'm sorry to bother you when you're busy. I need some advice.
I discussed with Ralph to be ready for any situation. After hearing my story, Ralph agreed to help. I started visiting my in-laws more, not just for Wendy, but to support my parents-in-law. Sissy, do the laundry. After that, go shopping.
Okay, understood.
Wendy, flaunting her pregnancy, ordered me around. I just smiled and let it slide. In front of my parents-in-law.
I'm sorry, I can't do anything because of the morning sickness.
She acted demure. She seemed to care about their opinion. When they weren't around, Wendy harassed me. I secretly recorded her voice, thinking she's bold. Thanks for helping with Wendy. Mom and Dad are grateful too.
That's okay. My job is flexible.
Neil thanked me, looking happy. I watched him with a detached feeling. What was he thinking, interacting with me like this? That thought lingered in my mind.
Did you hear, Sissy? The baby's finally born.
Oh, is that so? Neil seemed genuinely happy about the birth. Watching him, I felt calm.
So, for the baby birth gifts, we're thinking of pooling money to buy them a new house. A new house?
Apparently, there had been talk of selling the family home and moving into a duplex. The family home was old and would need remodeling soon.
So, I was hoping you could help with the cost. And maybe provide some land too.
My first thought was, how brazen. Neil seemed somewhat aware of this. Looking slightly apologetic.
It's for my dear childhood friend, you see?
I stared at him as he said this. He avoided my gaze. After a few seconds of staring, an idea came to me.
All right. I'll see if Marcia knows any good land. Really? Thanks, Sissy.
A while later, after Wendy's health stabilized, a party was organized to celebrate the birth. The relatives gathered to bless Wendy.
Congratulations! You did well.
Thank you. Wendy, cheered by everyone, looked pleased. Amidst this, a tipsy Neil, seemingly in high spirits, stepped forward.
To celebrate, let's all chip in and buy a new house. Really? That's amazing. I'm so happy. We've already secured the land, and construction has begun. All that's left is for everyone to contribute.
Neil announced with a beaming smile. And Wendy was ecstatic. Seeing them, the relatives, initially surprised by Neil's statement, now looked amused.
Surely, that's too much. Sissy, are you really okay with this?
Only Bert asked me this, looking apologetic.
Don't be shy. It's okay, right?
Neil, buoyant, looked back at me. To which I responded. Huh? Why should we?
The baby is yours, right?
I declared.
What?
The festive mood instantly froze.
What do you mean? Is this child Neil's? Sissy, what are you saying all of a sudden? Yes. This child is definitely Bert's.
The two panicked. Everyone looked at me, bewildered. Watching them and their reactions, I decided to call someone to the scene.
Excuse me for interrupting. What? It must be Sissy's.
The person I called was Ralph. The relatives were puzzled by his sudden entry.
What? Ralph?
Among them, Bert spoke Ralph's name in surprise. Actually, Ralph and Bert were friends. They had laughed together at our wedding meeting, saying, "So you're the brother." Ralph operated his mobile phone and showed a picture.
What? You mean? No way.
What appeared there were Wendy and Neil, intimately close. That wasn't just the closeness of childhood friends, nor that of married couples to each other. As Ralph scrolled through the slides, there were even images of them entering a hotel.
What does this mean? This has to be a fake. Exactly. Don't believe this. Why would you prepare such a thing?
Neil glared at Ralph. In response, Ralph just smiled.
I only used my family connections as my sister asked me to.
At those words, Neil's gaze turned towards me. I just tilted my head in response.
Oh, I thought you wanted to be found out, flaunting around like that. Flaunting? What are you talking about?
To the puzzled pair, I pulled out those earrings. Wendy, momentarily flustered, then feigned ignorance.
I thought I had lost those earrings, but you had them. You didn't lose them, you intentionally put them in his pocket, right? Along with the perfume.
That perfume turned out to be a limited edition.
A special item given only to the first 5 customers. Not something everyone could have. The fact that the scent was on you shows how close you've been, doesn't it?
Saying this, I stared at Neil, who averted his eyes subtly. He's so transparent.
You always look away when something inconvenient comes up, don't you? That is... I invited Ralph here today to divorce you, to help me move out, and to confront you with evidence of your affair.
Neil's face turned pale at my words.
Wait, please.
As he tried to plead, Bert grabbed him.
You two have something to answer for. Write the divorce papers now.
His voice clearly contained anger. Neil turned back to see his parents and relatives glaring at them. Neil, completely intimidated, shakily signed the divorce papers. After ensuring he had filled them out properly, I left the in-laws' house with Ralph. Hearing Bert's angry shouts and their cries behind us.
Still, my parents really have no eye for people,
Ralph said, laughing. The reason I asked Ralph for help this time was something he told me when I got married.
If anything happens, consult me. That family is a bit complicated.
Given this advice, I first turned to him. Apparently, he had already been informed by Bert of the complex relationship with Wendy and the others.
Bert seemed normal, but it's weird for a childhood friend to interfere in personal relationships.
It seems Wendy had been meddling in the relationships between Neil and Bert. Wendy, having a strong attachment to her childhood trio, wouldn't let even school friends join in.
That Wendy, was it? I doubt she truly loved either of them,
Ralph muttered. I understood what he meant a few days later. I filed for divorce immediately after that. Neil and Wendy were apparently pressed hard by the relatives.
I'm really sorry for the trouble this time.
Bert informed me over the phone about what happened next. He had a DNA test done immediately. It turned out the baby was Neil's child. Bert asked them why they did this, on my behalf.
I just couldn't stand someone else cutting into our trio of childhood friends.
As I expected, she didn't like my presence. For her, both Neil and Bert were hers. She admitted to planting the earrings to make a statement. As for Neil, he had always liked Wendy.
But I knew Wendy liked Bert, so I gave up.
Then, to move on, he chose to marry me. That made Wendy notice him, and he was thrilled, leading him astray. Neil confessed this to Bert.
I see. Thank you for telling me.
I sighed involuntarily while listening. Bert looked tired too. By the way, Bert had only ever seen Wendy as a childhood friend. But when Bert was thinking of getting a girlfriend, Wendy came on strong.
I initially intended to refuse. I knew Neil liked Wendy.
Then came Neil himself, and with the encouragement of the in-laws, they started dating. Later, Bert also fell for Wendy and they decided to get married.
Well, this betrayal has extinguished those feelings,
said Bert. I could understand his feelings. I, too, was smitten with Neil. But as soon as I realized his infidelity, all my love turned into anger.
What do you plan to do now? I'm thinking of divorcing as well.
When he told Wendy of his intention, she apparently lashed out in resistance. At that, the in-laws finally got angry, and the whole family ended up driving her out. Neil just watched the scene in a fluster. Seeing Wendy like that, his feelings for her also seemed to have cooled. Well, she did try to abandon even her own baby, so it's understandable. After being kicked out, Wendy tried to contact Neil, but he rejected her calls in front of his family.
Neil got kicked out of his parents' house too and went back to your house. He called me crying when he found your stuff was gone.
Is that so?
He said he loved Wendy, but it seems he did have feelings for you.
Even hearing that, I felt nothing. I no longer have any love for him in me.
Thanks for the information.
Sure. Oh, and my parents liked you, so they'd be happy if you visited sometimes. I like them too, so I'll visit again. At these words, he said, "Thank you," and hung up. Well, back to work. By the way, I am now living in a new house that was supposedly a gift for Wendy. It's close to the apartment I manage, and I plan to live there with elderly Marcia. After preparing to welcome Marcia, I decided to focus on my work. Ralph was right, after all. Remembering his words after hearing Bert's story. Bert tried to find a girlfriend and immediately got a strong appeal from Wendy. And when Neil got married, she harassed his partner and flirted with him. In the end, maybe Wendy never truly loved either of them. Just a space for the trio of childhood friends. That's probably all Wendy wanted. In a way, Neil might have been a victim, but he was at fault the moment he succumbed to temptation. Sometime later, during work, the doorbell rang.
It's been a while. Can I come in for a bit?
There stood Neil. I vaguely remembered that Neil knew the address of this house. Come in for now. Seeing him looking utterly dejected, I led him into the house. Neil quietly followed me. I'm working, so make it quick.
Right, you seem busy. Really sorry.
My second job is a writer. It turns out I'm suited for writing, and I've been getting more requests. It started as a side job, but it's gotten quite busy. I wish my main job was more passive.
I'm really sorry about what happened.
Neil apologized to me.
Divorcing Sissy made me realize how important you were.
Neil started to talk. He said he had realized his feelings for me and regretted betraying me. And then he apologized deeply again. But there were no words of wanting to start over from him. I couldn't help but stare at him, and he gave a bitter smile.
Sure, I want to start over, but you don't feel the same, right?
Being asked that, I simply nodded.
I don't deserve to start over with you. I can't ask for reconciliation.
He was the Neil I had once loved. But those feelings are long gone.
I'm really sorry. There's compensation money in this bank account.
Saying that, he left a debit card and went out.
If only you had realized your feelings for me sooner, things might have been different.
I murmured, watching his lonely back. Soon after.
Hey! You're in there, right?
Wendy appeared. She kept ringing the doorbell.
It's all your fault I'm unhappy.
Wendy had apparently gone back to her parents' house after being kicked out by the in-laws. But after the in-laws spread the word, she was also kicked out of her parents' house. Trying to cling to Neil again, Wendy spotted him heading somewhere and followed. Then she found me. She started ranting unasked.
Take responsibility and support me.
Responsibility? What are you talking about? I asked back, without opening the front door, speaking through the monitor.
You're the one who ruined us. Open this door.
Wendy started kicking the door, yelling. Then a hand was placed on her shoulder.
What?
Hey? Turning around, Wendy saw an angry Bert and the police. She was then taken away by the police. With Wendy gone, I opened the front door.
You must have been scared. I'm really sorry.
No, why were you here? According to Bert, Neil noticed Wendy heading to my house and contacted him and the police. They arrived in response.
You should file a report for this incident.
Yes, I intend to. While responding to him, I looked around. There, I spotted Neil a little distance away. He apologized and then left.
Showing off at the very end.
I muttered, watching his back. To which, he agreed and said,
Indeed.
Because of the report I filed, Wendy didn't get a prison sentence but was ordered to pay compensation. There was compensation to us as well. She suddenly had a huge debt. This included the harassment she did to me during her pregnancy. Neil, on the other hand, sold that house, filed for a transfer, and went far away alone. To Bert, he said, I can't stay near Sissy. The transfer was far enough to require a flight, so debt-ridden Wendy couldn't follow.
And then she came clinging to me.
Bert said, having obviously ignored her. The baby was taken in by Bert.
Can I help with anything? No, my parents are here, it's okay.
He said, smiling kindly. He and the in-laws would take good care of the baby. Oh, right. I came today to tell you about the new place. Bert's family decided to move out of the in-laws' house. Anyway, they had to let go of the in-laws' place. It seems it's also to get away from Wendy, who keeps meddling. If you doesn't mind, come visit us at the new place.
Yes, I'd love to.
I'm living with Marcia, busy with work. She's elderly but still quite active.
Have to keep moving or I'll get stuck.
She says, helping with housework, for which I'm truly grateful. Her help allows me to focus on my work.
By the way, my parents said they were sorry about what happened.
I heard from him about my parents knowing the incident. When I visited home, they apologized many times. Well, they did push for the marriage, leading to this. It must be hard for them not to worry.
Thanks to that, I got some freedom without being pushed into marriage. That's good. If you want to marry, find someone yourself next time.
Ralph said, laughing. As a thank you for his help, I plan to send him unique sweets not available there.
That's sweet, my wife and kids love it.
Then I'll send a lot. By the way, you don't have to get married. Marcia says. Whether to marry or not should be your own decision. If you yourself is happy, there's no need for others to interfere. With that attitude, she watches over me. Because of this, I am free to work as I please. Well, maybe I'll finish work early today and go out with Marcia. Thanks to many people, I am able to lead a peaceful and calm life. Since then, I've been working hard as usual. I haven't seen Neil since. Rumors say he's doing well at his new posting. According to Bert, child support is sometimes deposited. As for Wendy, she's been completely abandoned by those around her and left alone. Eventually, she resorted to loan sharks and was taken away by them.
Sissy, long time no see. It's been a while.
I occasionally meet with the in-laws and stay in touch. Introducing Isaac to my parents, participating in flea markets with Caddy. We have a relationship like friends with an age gap. I met an old classmate recently, and we're dating now. Bert seems to have found a new relationship. Seeing him down about Wendy, Ralph introduced him to an old classmate. This classmate had always liked Bert, but couldn't get close because of Wendy's interference. Ralph played Cupid this time. She's agreed to become the baby's mom. I can finally be happy. Bert said, smiling. His expression, so different from when Wendy was around, truly seemed happy. Seeing that, I started to think maybe I could date someone again. Then, out of the blue. By the way, one of my employees said he's fallen for you at first sight. Ralph informed me. Apparently, he fell for me when I visited my parents. That guy, he's really serious and a good person. If you are okay with it, can I introduce him to you next time?
Yes, please introduce him.
Taking the opportunity, I decided to meet him. As a result, our conversation flourished, and I started walking towards happiness again.
All right, I'm feeling motivated.
This time, I'll build a happy family. I've decided not to be swayed by others or to endure unnecessarily. With this in mind, I firmly faced forward.
What's going on here? I come home exhausted and you're just lounging around asleep?
My husband is the worst. Even when I'm burning up with fever, he tries to push me to do all the housework. If I collapse and end up in the hospital, he just thinks I'm faking it. How did I ever let myself be pushed around by a man like this for so long? As I started preparing for a divorce, tragedy struck. Life had always been tough and it felt like more trials were coming my way. But I won't be defeated. I vowed to myself that I'd overcome anything thrown my way. My name is Susie, 52 years old. I'm a part-time working housewife. We started living with my in-laws shortly after getting married. But since their passing, it's just me and my husband, Jason. We have an adult daughter, Avril, but she moved out, and we rarely see her. Having Avril was a blessing, but marrying Jason was a mistake. In our 50s, I've come to realize it's too late. Still, I plan to wait a bit more and get a divorce when Jason retires at 65. That's because I've endured years of harassment from my in-laws and grown tired of Jason's constant complaints. Yes, what we had wasn't a marriage, but a mere coexistence. I never viewed Jason as family, nor did I want to spend my golden years with him. During a family trip, both my in-laws tragically passed away in an accident. At the memorial service, I unintentionally overheard some relatives whispering in a corner, thinking I was out of earshot.
I hate to say this at a funeral, but Susie might finally catch a break.
She's been tormented for years, and with Jason so indifferent, it's just so sad. It hit me then that people pitied me. I always thought it was normal for a daughter-in-law to obey the in-laws. My mom even told me, getting along and not resisting leads to a happy family. You'll be in the mother-in-law's position someday. Just be patient. But I was treated like a maid, mainly because I never gave birth to a boy. I always believed that someday freedom would come my way. I never imagined people felt sorry for me. Then I realized I wanted to live a happier life and had so many things left to do. If I brought up divorce now, Jason, who never loved me, would agree in a heartbeat. He'd make sure the assets weren't divided fairly and I'd be left on my own. I don't want to burden my daughter, who's single and working hard, and since I've never worked full-time, starting now would be a tough transition. Thankfully, Jason is a workaholic who's climbed his way up to an executive position. I'm sure he'll receive a hefty retirement package when he leaves. I've decided to take half of that and divorce him. I have about 13 years until he retires at 65, so I started looking for a job I can do from home and began taking computer classes between house chores. Jason is often away for work. When he returns, it's always,
Hey, dinner,
or,
beer.
with short commands for me to serve him. He would never notice if I'm doing something behind his back. To document the deterioration of our relationship, I decided to keep a diary. Then one day, I felt terribly ill and was bedridden. When Jason came home and saw me in bed, he yelled,
What are you doing? I come home tired and you're just lying there?
and forcibly pulled me up. I have a high fever. I can't make dinner. If I do, I might get you sick. There's leftover food in the fridge. Please warm it up. Jason's face twisted in anger.
What? You expect me to eat leftovers? You can still move with a fever, right? You're living comfortably because I'm working.
He dragged me out of bed and ordered me to cook. Feeling cold and shaky, I managed to make some food. I couldn't taste anything because of my stuffy nose, but I assumed it was all right. However, Jason complained after one bite.
This is awful. Did you even taste it?
Just add some seasoning if it's not to your liking.
It's way too sweet. You mixed up sugar and salt, didn't you?
If that's the case, just eat the leftovers. Even with my foggy mind, I tried to do what I could, but Jason seemed annoyed.
Don't feed me the same stuff from yesterday. Did you mess up the sugar and salt on purpose just to annoy me?
I wouldn't do that.
Then don't screw up the next dish. Hurry up.
He glared at me threateningly, ordering with a loud voice. I reluctantly began making another meal. But with the fever and throbbing headache, my hands weren't steady, and I accidentally dropped a pot. I felt cold water splash on my feet. and the shock made me collapse. And just like that, I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed. Avril and my parents were there, tears glistening in their eyes as they watched over me. What happened? Lost in my confusion, my mother began to explain. I had collapsed in the kitchen and Jason had just left me there without even calling an ambulance. The next morning, Avril, who came home unexpectedly to surprise me, found me lying on the kitchen floor and immediately called for help. With tears streaming down her face and a deep intensity in her eyes, Avril said, "Mom, you really shouldn't be with Dad any longer. Just come live with me." "Where's Jason?" "He's terrible. After you got hospitalized, I called him. He thought you were faking it and just left you. I can't believe he's my dad." Hearing my daughter's words, the reality of enduring this life for over a decade sunk in. I once thought that 10 years would pass quickly, but wasting those years in agony seemed like I'd just be squandering my life. I've been planning to divorce Jason, but after what happened, I don't want to spend another second with him. Hearing this, Avril finally smiled. My dad then said gently, "You should do that. If you're ever in need, you can always come home. Avril told us how hard it's been for you. I'm sorry we didn't realize sooner." "I'm so sorry," my mother began, her voice filled with regret. "This might be my fault. I told you that no matter what, you should endure for the sake of the family. You took my advice seriously and bore everything, didn't you? I truly apologize. I wish I'd told you at least once that if things got tough, you could always come back home." I replied, "I should have spoken up when things got tough too. This happened because I never confided in anyone. From now on, I'm going to live a life without regrets." Seeing my smile, everyone in the room shared a gentle moment of laughter. The days of being controlled by Jason were over. From now on, I'll chase my own happiness. But just before Avril and my parents left my hospital room, my mother, with a concerned look, asked, "Susie, you look pale. Have you had a health checkup recently?" I shook my head. Although Jason's insurance covers checkups, I hadn't had one in years due to my busy schedule. I had never really thought about whether I was in good health or not. I just hadn't given it much attention. Maybe I should get one, I mused, realizing I didn't even know my own health status. Deciding to stay in the hospital for one more night, I scheduled a health checkup and headed home. Surprisingly, Jason was there that evening and immediately yelled at me when I entered.
"Where have you been?"
"I was in the hospital. Didn't Avril tell you?" he accused.
"You probably had Avril lie for you while you went out with some stranger. I heard someone saw a woman who looks just like you with a man I've never seen."
Caught off guard by the baseless accusation, I was a bit slow to react. "What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean. People who look like me could be anywhere. I've been in the hospital. You can check with them if you want. Look, I have the paperwork from the hospital right here."
"You're terrible at lying. I can tell you're flustered."
Anyone would be flustered if they were accused of something they didn't do. This document proves it. I pulled out the paperwork I had received from the hospital from my bag, but Jason snatched it from my hands, tore it up and threw it on the floor.
Anyone can fake those papers.
This was getting nowhere. Feeling defeated, I immediately ran out of the house. Jason didn't follow me. I hailed a taxi on the main road and headed to my parents' home. It was a relief being in the same city. A while after settling at home, my dad retrieved some clothes I had left behind, and I decided to stay with them for a bit. With everything that had transpired, I even considered treating myself to a vacation once the divorce was finalized. That was, until the results of my medical examination were out. Not long after returning home, I went back to the hospital for the results. They said I needed more detailed tests. I thought it was nothing serious, but then the doctor called in my family, and in a somber atmosphere, my dad relayed what he had been told. They said it's terminal cancer. You can have only 3 months to live. Oh, I see. Just when I had decided to enjoy the rest of my life, I received this grim prognosis. While I recognized the gravity of the words, they didn't quite sink in. I was simply in shock. My mother hugged me, weeping, while my father looked away. At that moment, Avril held both my hands tightly. Just because it's terminal doesn't mean it's incurable. Medicine has advanced so much. I want you to experience more happiness. I want you to see you smiling every day. Don't give up just because you've been given this prognosis. Avril's words were encouraging and gave me strength. Avril, the reason they told you about the diagnosis is that they wanted you to fight. If you just withered away without knowing, you'd definitely regret it. Even though times are tough now, I believe the future will be brighter. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair to you. Though Avril tried to remain strong, she couldn't hold back her tears by the end. Knowing that my loved ones would grieve if I succumbed to my illness weighed heavily on me. Plus, I hadn't gotten back at Jason for everything he'd done. Fueled by a desire for revenge against Jason, I vowed to do whatever it took to beat the illness. Later, Avril told Jason about my condition and the terminal prognosis, but apparently, he didn't believe her. My anger boiled up even more. Thinking about a husband who didn't even bother to worry when his wife was in such a state. Why had I let Jason control me and tolerated him all these years? I regretted not divorcing him sooner, wondering if things would have been different. But I couldn't change the past. Determined to brighten my future, I decided to undergo the latest medical treatments. After living this way for 6 months, the 3-month prognosis had long passed, and my health was improving. That day, I was at the hospital for a routine checkup, accompanied by my mother. Suddenly, my cell phone rang. It was a call from Jason, which was unusual. Seeing the caller ID, both my mother and I exchanged surprised glances. I chose not to answer, instead asking my mother to handle it in a particular way. While she hesitated, the call ended, but soon after, Jason called again. "Mom, please." When I suggested that, my mother hesitantly answered the phone. To ensure I could hear Jason's voice, she plugged in earbuds and we each used one. The moment the call connected, I heard him shout,
Where are you messing around? I knew you were faking the hospital stay. Always playing sick. Get out of there and come home now.
His yelling was so loud and harsh that I wanted to pull out the earbud immediately. My mother, using a stern tone, began. I'm Susie's mother, and... He sounded genuinely shocked.
Wait, Susie's mom?
It would have been a blessing if she were just playing sick. She passed away earlier.
No way. You're lying too? My daughter. She's no longer in this world.
My mother, although initially hesitant, gave a very convincing performance of grief. Jason fell silent for a few moments, then whispered,
Where is Susie right now?
She told him the name of the hospital and hung up. We then alerted my father, Avril, and other relatives to gather in my room, anticipating Jason's arrival. Given Jason's prominent position at his company, we didn't expect him to arrive immediately. Besides, my father and Avril, relatives from Jason's side of the family, came as well. Because I had always been genuinely supportive during New Year's and summer holidays, they were quick to rally behind me. When Jason finally stormed into the room, furious, he yelled,
I heard you died, but the receptionist told me you're still admitted here.
At the reception desk, it seemed he learned that I was still alive and found out my room number. He appeared furious, feeling deceived, but he suddenly toned it down upon seeing the relatives present. I had called the relatives as a buffer against Jason, who cares about public perception. If they hadn't been there, he might have verbally abused or even harmed me for lying. I'm grateful to those who came to support me.
I heard Susie passed away,
He said hesitantly, so I responded first. I asked Mom to tell you that. Without such drastic measures, you'd continue to think I'm just faking my illness, wouldn't you? Telling your suffering wife to come home and do housework. How could you? Then, Avril, with a look of contempt, addressed Jason. Dad, now do you believe Mom wasn't faking? She was told she only had 3 months to live, but she promised to stay alive until the divorce. Mom really fought hard.
Divorce?
I thrust forward the divorce papers my father had gotten from the office. Please, grant me this divorce. It's my final request to you. I don't want to die as your wife.
You hate me that much?
Tell me, did you ever do a single thing that would make me like you?
I brought in money. You lived comfortably, didn't you?
Please, don't make me laugh. I didn't marry money. I wanted a relationship where we could support each other. Clearly, that wasn't possible with you. My biggest regret is not divorcing you sooner. Now, sign it. I asserted firmly, and the relatives backed me up. It's all because you've made Susie suffer for so long. That is the consequence of your actions. Can't you grant your wife's last wish?
I'm ashamed to call you family. Poor Susie.
Other relatives began to scold Jason in turn.
I'm struggling without Susie. I've never done housework, so our home's a mess. I can't imagine our finances either. I spend too much. I wish Susie was only pretending. I'm genuinely sorry.
Jason, with tears in his eyes, signed the divorce papers. I don't want to see your face for another second. Leave now. I demanded, and the dejected Jason left. Later, with the help of my lawyer, I successfully secured half of our assets. Regarding the long-time harassment from my in-laws, I claimed that Jason was complicit by turning a blind eye, and I demanded compensation. Though the evidence was scant and I couldn't claim much, I still managed about $10,000, which felt satisfactory. What's valuable to me isn't money, but living freely without anyone's control. Jason, mistakenly thinking I was dying soon, was furious about the compensation claim. But I had already been discharged from the hospital and moved near Averil's apartment with my parents, so he couldn't find me. Turns out, Jason tried to sue me through my lawyer, alleging that I had an affair and demanding compensation from me. However, it became clear that the day Jason's acquaintance claimed to have seen me walking with an unknown man, I was in the hospital. When it was confirmed that the woman wasn't me, my lawyer promptly dismissed Jason's accusations. After that, Jason was ostracized by the entire family, and even Avril cut ties with him. Left with no one to turn to, he apparently resorted to hiring a housekeeper. But hiring housekeeping isn't cheap, and Jason started looking for a wife who'd do the chores for less. He tried wooing his housekeepers during work hours and even made unexpected marriage proposals, leading him to be flagged as a person of concern by staffing agencies. Rumors spread that a housekeeper had sued Jason, and the scandal hit company heavily reduced his severance pay and fired him. Now he seems to be working part-time, just making ends meet. My treatment went well. The metastasized tumors almost disappeared and the primary tumor vanished. I started thinking about the future, focusing on doing everything I wanted, and my days became positive, bright, and fulfilling. Currently, I'm working remotely on tasks like data entry. I've started preparations, anticipating the need to care for my aging parents in the future. Avril met someone wonderful and came to introduce him. My parents and I were overjoyed. I told Avril, "Be happy, but if things get tough, remember, you can always come back." Having been through my own challenges and come out the other side, I could say this with confidence. Now, while hoping for Averil's happiness, I aim to live each day with joy and positivity.
My name is Emily. I've been sick since I was little, and now I work from home at my parents' house. I'm already 28 years old. It's about time I start living on my own. I often think that lately. But with my parents, who worry about me, it's hard to say I want to live alone. If only there was some sort of sign. That's what I was thinking when Olivia, my brother's wife, came back home to give birth. "I'll be in your care for a while, Emily." "Olivia, are you sure it's okay to stay here? Wouldn't it be better at your own parents' home?" "No, it's fine. My home is far, and here Daniel can visit on weekends," Olivia said with a smile. After graduating college, my brother Daniel got a job at a company about an hour's drive from our house. Now married, he lives in an apartment near his work with Olivia. We found out about their pregnancy about 6 months ago. Daniel called suddenly. "Mom, it's serious. Olivia is pregnant." "What are you panicking for? It's good news. Congratulations." "Yeah, but there's something that worries me." "What's worrying you?" "I'm busy with work and can't always be by Olivia's side, right? What if something happens when I'm not here?" "In that case, just call me, though Olivia might prefer her own mom." "Got it. I'll ask Olivia too." That's what we talked about, but I haven't heard of any troubles. According to messages from my brother, it seems Olivia relies a lot on her friends. "It looks like I won't be needed." "You never know, Mom. She might suddenly ask for help." "That's true. I'll be ready just in case." Mom is pretty laid back about it. She even decorated the house with stuffed animals, already feeling like a grandmother. But I couldn't help feeling anxious, because Olivia is quite arrogant. I realized that when Olivia came to greet us after getting engaged. "Nice to meet you. I'm Olivia. I'm dating Daniel." Olivia began to speak quietly. Mom and Dad immediately liked Olivia, who exuded a neat and tidy aura. Of course, at that time, I thought she was cute, too. But her true colors showed soon enough. I had work, so I decided to leave when Olivia went to the bathroom. Sorry, Daniel, I'm a bit swamped with work.
It's okay, sis. Sorry for bothering you when you're busy.
No, it's important to greet my little brother's fiancé. I left the table talking with my brother like that. When I was about to go back to my room, I heard Olivia talking. Glancing over, Olivia was on her phone in front of the bathroom. The greeting went well, but there was this gloomy sister. Gloomy sister? Is she talking about me? I felt bad, but listened to Olivia's conversation. With a smile on her lips, Olivia said, She says she works from home, but she's just a shut-in. I don't want to get close to the in-laws' house when I go back. The moment I heard that, I was shocked. Is this what she really thinks? Should I pretend I didn't hear it or tell my brother? I was torn. I guess I should tell. The shock was too much, and I couldn't organize my thoughts. While I was hesitating, Olivia noticed me. Oh, is that you, Emily? Eavesdropping, huh? Nice hobby. It's not like that. I wasn't eavesdropping. So you didn't hear my conversation. Well, I mean, you did hear it, didn't you? I'm sorry. Well, it's fine. Just don't say anything unnecessary, okay? Unnecessary? Yes, I'm warning you. Don't tell Daniel what you just heard, or I won't forgive you. You're going to do something to me? Nothing at all. I wouldn't want to let go of the elite man I've finally gotten. Olivia laughed mockingly. In that moment, I understood what kind of person Olivia was. Ah, she married for money. That's when my brother suddenly appeared.
What's going on, Olivia? Oh, sis, you're here too.
Sorry, Daniel. I was just having a little chat with Emily.
Is that so? So more importantly, aren't you supposed to be working, sis?
My brother looked at me. Beside him, Olivia was glaring at me. Yeah, I'm going now. Bye. I left the room as if fleeing. From behind, my brother said to me,
Good luck with your work.
Without looking back, I escaped to my room. Alone, regret washed over me. I shouldn't have run away. I should have told Daniel then and there. In the end, I said nothing. A few hours later, still burdened with regret and working, an unexpected call came to my mobile phone. A number I don't recognize. I normally wouldn't answer, but for some reason, I had a premonition and answered the call. Hello?
Good. I thought you might be cautious and not answer since it's you, sis.
It was my brother's voice on the other end. Relieved, I asked, Daniel, did you change your number?
No, this is Olivia's mobile phone.
Olivia's? My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, what do I do? For a moment, I almost hung up. But then I stopped my finger from moving, because Olivia answered the phone. Sorry, Emily, I didn't get to ask for your contact earlier. Olivia? When I couldn't say anything, Olivia added one last thing. Let me consult with you if something comes up, okay, Emily? Sure. Of course, it's a secret between us girls. Don't tell anyone else. Absolutely not. She emphasized the end a bit too much. A warning just in case. I instinctively thought so, and quickly ended the call. I don't want to deal with this anymore. In the end, I couldn't tell my brother the truth. After that, he married Olivia. I attended the wedding but kept my distance from Olivia as much as possible.
Sis, why aren't you talking to Olivia?
Yeah, I'm just nervous with so many people around. I excused myself like that and went home without talking to Olivia. But after that, Olivia didn't try to interact with me. So I felt bad for my brother, but relieved. If I don't meet Olivia, I'll be fine. I reassured myself with those words every day. Then, Olivia's pregnancy was announced. What if Olivia relies on Mom? I was anxious, but there were no signs of my brother or Olivia depending on Mom. I was relieved until shortly before the delivery, my brother called.
Mom, I need a favor.
What is it?
I've been suddenly ordered to go on a business trip. I'm worried about Olivia.
Ah, I see. It's about time for the baby to be born, isn't it?
Can you take care of Olivia while I'm gone? It would be terrible if something happened when I'm not there.
I don't mind, but will she be comfortable at the in-laws' house?
I talked to Olivia, and she doesn't mind. It would be helpful if you could look after her.
All right.
And so, Olivia was coming to our house for the delivery. When I was told about this decision made without me, I was quite surprised. Why did you decide this on your own, Mom?
It can't be helped. Daniel is busy. But what's the matter, Emily? Do you dislike Olivia?
It's not like that, but...
Then it shouldn't be a problem for a short while, right? You should help out too.
Mom said that, and I was left speechless. A few days later, Olivia came to our house. Contrary to my worries, Olivia blended into our life. I can't help with the cleaning.
Oh, Olivia, please sit down. It must be hard to move around so close to your due date. But still, it's okay. Think of this as your own home and relax for now.
Then I'll take you up on that offer. Thank you. Things went by smoothly like that. If only it can stay peaceful like this. That's what I thought every day. A few days later, while working, I needed to use the bathroom and left my room. Then I heard voices from the living room.
Olivia, can you help a little with the cleaning?
It was Mom's voice. I wondered if the other person was Olivia and waited for a reply. Sure enough, Olivia's voice came.
Me? Clean?
Yes, it's not good to stay still all the time, right?
But...
Olivia's voice sounded dissatisfied. I thought her arrogant attitude was finally showing, but Mom seemed to sense it first.
If you're not feeling well, never mind, just rest there.
Okay. Olivia replied like a child, and Mom came out of the living room. Seeing me, Mom asked,
What's up, Emily?
Oh, just going to the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Call me when you're done. I want to clean.
Understood. I headed to the bathroom, but stopped in my tracks. I looked toward the living room once and then asked Mom. Mom, there's something I want to ask.
What is it?
About Olivia.
What happened with Olivia?
Is she causing you any trouble?
Well, I can tolerate it for now.
Mom used the word tolerate, so she is tolerating it. While I was thinking, Mom asked,
Did something happen?
No, nothing in particular.
That's good then.
After that conversation, I went to the bathroom. Then I called out to Mom and went to the living room. Olivia, who noticed me, asked,
Oh, what's up, Emily?
I just went to the bathroom and came to get a drink.
Aren't you supposed to be working?
I am working.
Really? Or are you just playing around?
Olivia's condescending tone irritated me, and I blurted out, That's none of your business. Olivia didn't argue back. Feeling panicked? I shouldn't have said that. Olivia finally spoke.
Well, it's none of my business. The shut-in, Emily, and all.
I'm not a shut-in. I gathered my courage and approached Olivia. Then Olivia showed me her mobile phone and said,
If you get near me, I'll tell Daniel.
What?
I was pushed by Emily.
What do you think Daniel will say? But telling such a lie? I thought my brother would never believe it. But Olivia, with a mocking laugh, said,
I'm at the in-laws' house. It's common for mother-in-law and sister-in-law to bully the wife, right?
That's not...
And if I say I'm being bullied, who do you think people will believe? They'll believe the side that causes a social media firestorm rather than the truth.
I glanced at Olivia's mobile phone, and there I was, looking upset. It seemed she had taken the photo when I was angry. If Olivia attached that photo to her false confession, most people would believe her. So I couldn't respond to Olivia anymore. It's frustrating, but I have to endure this. I turned away from Olivia. I took water from the fridge and was about to leave the living room when Olivia said from behind,
Emily, if you're free, can you buy me some dessert? Why should I? Because I'm pregnant. You have to be kind to pregnant women, right? I didn't need to answer. I ignored her and went back to my room. What a boring person, Olivia muttered. But my attitude seemed to upset her. From the next day, Olivia started to interfere with my work. When I was working in my room, Olivia suddenly came in and said, "Are you hiding in your room again? You're disturbing me." Huh? Is your job just browsing the internet? Or are you a shut-in? It's neither. I have a meeting soon, so please leave. Oh, are you going to play games over voice chat? Just go, please. I almost forced Olivia out. After several such incidents, I decided to ask Mom to speak to Olivia. So Emily is having trouble. Could you please be a bit quieter, Olivia? What? I'm the bad one? It's not like that. We all live together, so please be a bit patient. Being patient is stressful. You're the worst, Sophia, for stressing a pregnant woman. I'm just asking for cooperation. What do you think about pregnant women? I want to focus on giving birth, but you keep saying be patient, be patient. Don't stress me. Olivia raised her voice like throwing a tantrum. Even Mom was taken aback. Despite being the cause, Olivia seemed upset that Mom scolded her. Afterward, her arrogant attitude worsened, specifically treating Mom like a maid and bad-mouthing me for staying at home all the time. Both Mom and I were troubled by this. Mom, this is affecting my work. Hearing my complaint, Mom, looking troubled, said, Maybe you should live somewhere else until Olivia gives birth. Somewhere else? Sorry, but you can't rent a weekly apartment or something. I'll help with meals and laundry. It was a suggestion I hadn't expected. Indeed, Olivia's attitude was excessive. But thanks to her, I got the chance to live on my own, something I had been contemplating for a long time. I nodded eagerly. Yes, I'll do that. I'm sorry, it's just for a while. No, it's okay. I'll start preparing right away. I hurried back to my room, searched for weekly apartments, and started preparing to move. I only needed some clothes and my work computer. A large suitcase would suffice. As I was preparing to move, Olivia unexpectedly came into my room. Are you moving out, Emily? That's none of your business. It is my business. If you're moving, you should take less stuff, right? What? Give me that computer. You can buy a new one at your new place. That's impossible. I use it for work. Get rid of anything else you don't need, and I'll take it off your hands. Olivia looked around my room greedily. Feeling threatened, I tried to get her out of my room. Leave, you're in the way. Then give me that tablet. The expensive one, good for drawing. She pointed to a tablet on my desk, a top model from a certain manufacturer, worth $100,000. Furious, I forcefully pushed Olivia out. Get out! That's when it happened. Olivia suddenly raised her voice. Nothing's okay. Nothing's allowed. What is this? Everyone's stressing me out for fun. I was stunned. Olivia, banging on the door, yelled, I was told to make myself at home. But what's this treatment? I came back for the delivery and this is how I'm treated? Her shouting echoed throughout the house. Mom must have heard it because she rushed out of the living room. Approaching with incredible speed, Mom said to Olivia, If you wanted to come back for delivery so badly, please go back to your own parents' house. My own house? Olivia was surprised by Mom's polite yet firm tone. Mom, glaring at Olivia, said, I'll call your parents to come pick you up, and went back to the living room. Olivia collapsed on the spot, shocked. Mom indeed called Olivia's parents. Olivia turned pale at the sight. What should I do? Dad is coming. Apparently, she was afraid of her father, but it was her own doing. I continued my moving preparations, feigning ignorance. The next day, around noon, as I was finishing my preparations, Olivia's parents arrived.
I'm truly sorry for our daughter's behavior.
Olivia's dad apologized first. However, Olivia's mom looked somewhat displeased. On the phone, it sounded like Olivia was at fault. But is that really true? Isn't this just the mistreatment of a daughter-in-law? Are you suggesting I'm lying? My mom argued back against Olivia's mom. Neither of them showed any signs of backing down. Then Olivia's father intervened.
Stop it, Isabella.
But it seemed Olivia's mom's name was Isabella. Nonetheless, the confrontation between Olivia's mom and mine continued. Eventually, Isabella suggested, "This is getting us nowhere. Let's hear from the person herself." "That's a good idea. Olivia, what do you have to say?" Olivia was asked by my mom. Considering how scared she was the day before, I thought she'd confess honestly. But Olivia, with a sulky face, said, "I did nothing wrong. I have proof." "Proof?" I asked back, and Olivia, with a smirk, said, "This," and showed her mobile phone. I feared she might show that photo and became scared. At the same time, Olivia's father asked her,
"What about it, Olivia?"
"Dad, listen to this." Olivia played a voice recording on her phone. "That's none of your business." It was my voice. These were from when Olivia and I argued, and as I thought, more recordings played. "You're disturbing me. Leave. You're in the way." All of them were my voice, and all familiar to me. But hearing just these, anyone would think I was bullying her. As expected, Olivia told her parents, "This is Emily bullying me. She's treating me like a nuisance and trying to kick me out of the house."
"Is that true, Olivia?"
Olivia's mom excitedly asked her. Then Olivia, fake crying, said, "It's true. I've been patient, but Emily keeps bullying me."
"What do you have to say for yourself, Emily?"
Olivia's mom, fully believing Olivia's story, pressed me. I was confused. Well...
"Can't explain? Then it must be true."
"No, it's not like that." I couldn't explain properly. Seeing my struggle, Olivia smirked mockingly. I was outsmarted, I thought, and looked down.
"There's no reason for them to lie, but if there's proof..."
Olivia's dad was also troubled. I'm done for. Just as I thought that, my mom placed her mobile phone on the table. Then she began to speak.
"Indeed, the voice is strong evidence. But what if it's been cut and edited?" "Cut and edited?"
Olivia's dad frowned. "Don't say weird things. This is clear evidence of bullying." Olivia argued back. My mom confidently countered Olivia's mom. "Then I'll show you the evidence. Look at this," and started playing a video on her mobile phone. Instantly, Olivia and I appeared on the phone screen. "Aren't you supposed to be working?" "I am working." "Really? Or are you just playing around?" "That's none of your business." This conversation played out. I immediately recognized it from that time. Olivia seemed to realize it too, her face turning pale.
"Olivia, what is this?"
Olivia's dad shouted at her. Meanwhile, the video showed Olivia's arrogant behavior towards us. After all the footage, my mom said to Olivia's dad, "I installed cameras all over the house for when the grandchild is born. Everything was recorded." "It's a lie. This is fabrication," Olivia cried out in a panic. But my mom calmly reached for a stuffed animal on the shelf and put it in front of Olivia. "This is a camera for watching children from afar. You can easily buy it online. Young people like you should know about it, right?" That is... Olivia was at a loss for words, but my mom didn't let up, pressing further. "It can record and even be accessed from a mobile phone remotely. Do you understand what this means?" It means I can view it from anywhere." "Well, no way." Olivia turned even paler. "Of course, Daniel must have seen it too." "No way." Olivia collapsed in tears. After that, it was hellish. Olivia's dad furiously scolded her, and she wailed like a child. Olivia's mom stayed silent the whole time, face pale, unable to say a word. Eventually, Olivia's dad apologized.
I'm truly sorry for our daughter. We will take responsibility for her.
He practically dragged Olivia out. Olivia's mom, leaving, muttered a faint apology for their daughter's behavior and her own rudeness. Their earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by a complete turnaround. After Olivia's family left, my mom commented,
Finally settled.
"Thank you, Mom." Thus, the tumultuous visit from my brother's wife ended. Olivia gave birth soon after returning home, and soon gave birth to a healthy boy. My brother, informed of the incident, said,
I never knew Olivia was such a person. I'm thinking of divorcing her.
They are currently discussing separation. Olivia, seeming chastened, is apparently agreeable to the divorce.
Once everything is settled, I'll make sure she pays alimony.
It seems Olivia's dad mentioned this, so hard labor awaits Olivia. Well, she ridiculed me so much, she deserves a bit of hardship. Meanwhile, having prepared to move, my mom suggested, "Why don't you try living alone?" Thanks to her, I've started my first solo living experience. Managing household chores is new, but enjoyable. But secretly, I'm already homesick. So I'm planning to visit my mom this weekend, pretending nothing's wrong.
I'm shy, so dealing with the mother-in-law is just too much. Anyway, this house will be lived in by family only, so please take the elderly to a retirement home. Suddenly, my son and daughter-in-law appeared and took over my home, forcing me out. Since they're not really family, what happens to them next is none of my business. They'll learn that what goes around comes around. I'm Emily, currently 70 years old, retired from work, and enjoying my free life. Though I've retired, I'm busy finding joy in things like gardening, yoga, cooking, and even fancy recipes. Many of my numerous friends say I seem cheerful and without worries, but I've had my share of misfortune too. My husband fell seriously ill 10 years ago, and we had to say goodbye. There were times when life was so hard, but the encouragement from those around me, I managed to get through. Now, I have no regrets about nursing my beloved husband until the end. I can proudly say that I was able to care for him all the way because I used to work as a nurse. After graduating from school, I worked as a nurse for 40 years, feeling a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment, believing it was my calling. My late husband and I have a son and a daughter. My daughter, inspired by watching me work, wanted to do something helpful for others and decided to become a nurse, attending nursing school. She graduated successfully and now works as a nurse in the city. As a fellow nurse, I understand the rewards and the hardships of the job. She's busy every day, sometimes unable to come home even for Christmas, but she keeps in touch regularly. My daughter lives a bit far away, but is managing well on her own, which is a relief to me as a parent. However, my worry lies elsewhere, with my son. Unlike his diligent and serious sister, my son has always been carefree, living for the moment.
There are more important things than studying. You've got to enjoy the present,
were his mottos, preferring time with friends over studying or clubs. I understand that friends and fun are important, but I wish he would study properly too. This led to a huge argument and the beginning of a long rebellious phase for my son. I knew that rebellious phases are common and unavoidable in growth, but his increasing defiance was frustrating. It felt like wandering in an endless tunnel, and without resolution, my son decided to go to college and live on his own. Congratulations on starting college. It's good to have fun, but make sure you eat properly and study hard.
What's the point of going to college? To have fun, right? Old people's nagging when I'm trying to enjoy my college life is just unbelievable.
My son, who always jumps at fun things and avoids hassles, had me worried about how he'd handle college life alone. Unfortunately, my fears were confirmed. I knew his childhood friend who lived nearby went to the same university, but he used to come home every Christmas and other long breaks. We often chatted since our homes were close and we had known each other since they were kids. Having not heard from my son for a while, I asked his friend about him. He told me that my son sometimes enters lectures late and has even been on the list of students with suspicious grades. He seems to spend his days working part-time at a pub, showing little interest in attending university seriously, and he keeps asking for more money to live on.
You're telling me to get by on just the money for living expenses. Being a college student costs a lot, you know.
We send you enough to not struggle. Maybe the problem is how you're spending it. Due to his lifestyle, my son struggled to find a job, but a professor, taking pity, referred him to a company, and he finally got a job. He's been like this for over 20 years now, becoming a responsible adult capable of self-discipline just because he's a working professional? That didn't happen. He seems to think that as long as he has influential people on his side and keeps a good face in front of others, someone else will handle the tedious stuff. One day, I saw my son at a shopping mall in the next town. It was his day off, and he seemed to be enjoying shopping with a woman. She was wearing a blouse and a cardigan, a knee-length skirt, a small bag, and had well-maintained, long black hair. When did he meet such a lovely lady? Daniel, right? It's unexpected to see you here. It would be nice if you show your face at home on your days off.
No, I don't have time for that.
The woman with my son looked perplexed and responded reluctantly. Who's this?
Oh, that's my mom, sort of.
Oh, I'm shy, and it's such a downer to deal with this on my day off. She complained about meeting me in a high-pitched, clingy voice, not sounding like an adult woman at all. Curious, I asked, partly to be polite. I'm Daniel's mother. Are you dating him? I thought you looked so lovely I just had to say something. But she turned away, clearly not intending to answer, looking displeased beside my son.
She's my girlfriend, Natalie. We work at the same company and are planning to get married. You're annoying, and that's why people dislike you. I've been fed up with this since I was a kid. Just get it, will you?
After dropping these words, they hurried off. An adult woman using shyness as a shield to rudely ignore her boyfriend's mother seemed inappropriate, and my son's attitude was still like he was in the middle of his rebellious phase. Honestly, I wasn't confident in handling a relationship with a 30-something son acting like a teenager and a woman showing off her displeasure at our first meet because of her shyness. Displeased, I left the mall. Just when I was beginning to forget that unpleasant encounter at the mall, I ran into them again unexpectedly. Living alone since my divorce, I rarely hear voices at home, but returning from yoga, I heard noises and cautiously opened the door to find my son and the woman from the mall. They were busy looking for something. What's going on? You could have just called if you wanted to come over. Is there something you need?
It doesn't matter. Just stop nagging us at this timing.
Great timing coming home now. Can't you read the air?" They both seemed uneasy, avoiding eye contact.
"We're married now, Natalie and me. If you do anything she doesn't like, I won't forgive you."
I had my reservations about their marriage. I didn't know much about the woman, and my first impression of her was terrible. But she was my son's choice, and as an adult, it wasn't my place to object. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I tried to be diplomatic. "Oh, you two are married. Congratulations." "Just so you know, I'm shy, so I don't plan on doing annoying things like family meetings or visiting home. Just transfer the congratulatory money." Demanding a congratulatory gift outright was shocking, but relationships and how we handle them can change. Despite feeling a bit uneasy, I guessed I'd have to find a way to get along. However, I had a big event to look forward to that would blow away my gloom about my son and daughter-in-law. A trip to Mexico I had been planning for years. A longtime friend had moved to Mexico and was going to show me delicious food and tourist spots. Excited to meet my friend and travel abroad, I had sleepless nights eagerly awaiting the trip. I was constantly researching my Mexican vacation, looking at guidebooks and planning the itinerary at home. I even wrote the plans in my calendar, counting the days. Leaving my house empty for about a week, I made sure everything was locked up before leaving for Mexico. It was my first time there, and I thoroughly enjoyed the delicious food and fun times with my friend. But upon returning home, I was greeted with an unbelievable sight. Piles of cardboard boxes blocking my front door. They were all different sizes and types, and my belongings were haphazardly stuffed inside. What had happened while I was away? Entering my house, I found unfamiliar furniture and youthful clothes everywhere. The place was a mess with items belonging to someone I didn't know. Just as I was about to call the police, my son and daughter-in-law emerged from hiding. "What is all this? These boxes, these belongings. Did you do this?"
"We thought we'd take this house since our company housing was up for renewal."
"It's sad for an old person to have a big house all to themselves, so we're taking it off your hands." I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was all so sudden. Their attitude suggested they had already decided to take over my house. "So we'll be living here as a family now? It's better for an elderly person like you to go to a retirement home." I had barely spoken to my son's wife before, and our conversations had never been proper. This time, it was especially appalling. "I just got back from a trip. Where am I supposed to stay if you kick me out now?" "That's not our problem. Just find somewhere, and make sure you use your old age pension to get into a retirement home. We don't want you to end up homeless because of us." Their selfishness was so extreme it was laughable. "Are you serious about taking over this house? So you're saying you'll be the new owners from now on?"
"That's what we've been saying. It's better for us to use this house than an old person with not much time left."
"We're sick of seeing you, so just go somewhere else. It's shameful for a parent to mooch off their children for retirement home money." Realizing arguing was pointless, I decided to withdraw quickly. "Please, feel free to. Shall I handle the property transfer myself?"
"Of course. Who else is going to do it? We're busy, unlike you."
My son and daughter-in-law were insolent until the end, but I doubted they would be able to keep it up for long. I wonder how they would react when they realized the reality of the situation. For now, I swiftly proceeded with the transfer of the house as per their request, and started preparing to move to a new place I had already planned. I had decided to move to a more comfortable location using the funds and savings I had accumulated from my long career. I had leaped at the chance to buy a dream high-rise apartment I had always wanted to live in. though the handover was still several days away. The unexpected arrival of my son and daughter-in-law meant I had to leave my old house a bit earlier, but it was fine. When I mentioned to my friends that I was out from my home, most of them were concerned. I didn't share more than necessary, as it was a family embarrassment, but the rumor spread. Word got around about my predicament and my son and daughter-in-law taking over my house, leading to a call from my son.
Hey, what is this about? It's defamation!
You call out of the blue accusing me of defamation? I don't follow.
Because of you saying you were kicked out, my friends are leaving, and I've lost all my work.
My son's outcry, on the other hand, seemed almost comical. Apparently, the incident had become widely known, leading his friends to distance themselves, resulting in cancelled contracts. Likely, his friends and business associates didn't want to associate with someone who could cold-heartedly kick out their parent without discussion. I just stated the facts. You moved my things out and told me to leave. It's all coming back to you, isn't it?
My work and friends have nothing to do with it. I've lost important contracts. Pay me $50,000 for defamation.
That your friends and clients don't want to deal with someone so heartless and unreasonable is their choice. It's all you're doing. I won't be transferring any money, so save your absurd demands for your dreams. Considering the detrimental impact on my mental health, I was thinking of permanently cutting off contact with my son and his wife. Even though it's hard to suddenly block calls from your own child, a few months after my son's call, I received another unwanted contact. Some guy I don't know is saying he's going to demolish the house. What's this about? Is this some kind of harassment? Is that you, Natalie? The house is scheduled for demolition. It's already been decided. You decided to demolish it and didn't tell us? Then dumped it on us? That's the worst! The house I once lived in, which my son and daughter-in-law had taken over, was slated for demolition about 2 years ago. It was found to contain harmful chemicals, and it was old and difficult to renovate. The house was too large for me to live in alone in the future, and it would feel cramped if I ended up living there with my children or grandchildren. So I decided it was the right time to demolish it and move to a new home. I had intended to inform my children, but seeing how they insisted on claiming that old house as theirs, I thought it unnecessary. Now, in my son's wife's mind, she's the poor daughter-in-law who is unfairly burdened with a problematic house by me. She's completely forgotten that they took over the house without permission. Who was it that moved my things out and occupied the house while I was on vacation? You confirmed it was yours, didn't you? I don't know anything about that. How can you not help your family, especially when your daughter-in-law is in such trouble? When she said the last thing I wanted to hear, I felt a strong aversion. Daughter-in-law? Who are you referring to? I can't forget you saying, just family will live here, so the elderly should go to a retirement home. That wasn't a joke. That was just a joke. Anyway, there are men outside saying they're going to demolish the house, and it's scary. Make them stop. That's your house, and it's your responsibility as homeowners. There are no do-overs. I didn't want to hear more, so I decided to hang up. The call was tense, and I couldn't predict what they might do next. I realized I couldn't let my guard down around my son and daughter-in-law. Resolving issues over the phone might not always work in the future. I was staying in a temporary weekly rental apartment until I moved into my new home. But even that didn't feel entirely safe. Given their unpredictability, I couldn't rule out them taking unforeseen and irrational actions. Unfortunately, my fears were realized. Several friends and acquaintances told me that my son and daughter-in-law were desperately trying to find where I was living. They were using all means to locate me, which was quite frightening. When I saw a social media post saying, "My dear family is missing, waiting for mother-in-law," with my photo, I was so scared that I dropped my phone. Their frantic efforts were all for their own benefit. It seems my son's income had drastically reduced due to poor sales performance. But he and his wife, unwilling to compromise on their lifestyle and living environment, appeared to be counting on my money. My friends reassured me they wouldn't divulge my whereabouts, but I knew it was only a matter of time before they found me. People with nothing to lose are unpredictable. One day, as I was returning to my temporary apartment, I thought I saw the curtains move. Fearing a break-in, I called the police. Upon closer inspection, I realized it could be my son's wife. As I approached my apartment with the officers, I confronted her. "Natalie, right? This is my place. What are you doing here without the owner?" "Oh, nothing. My husband asked me to get something from here." Her eyes darted around nervously as she made excuses. "Even if that's true, shouldn't you have contacted me before entering? It's like you're a burglar going through my cupboards without permission." "I forgot to contact you. I'm a bit forgetful. Calling me a burglar? That sounds bad." She was making unreasonable excuses, looking around restlessly without any calm. Seeing her unease, I decided to play my trump card. "Thief, hidden cameras. Remember when you visited my house before getting married? Let's talk about what you did in the room." "I'm the daughter-in-law and I'm mentally hurt by my mother-in-law's accusations. Officer, you heard her, right? I'll claim damages in court." She was adamant about playing the victim, pleading to the officer about how unfairly I treated her. However, I had solid evidence. "You visited my house before. After that visit, an engagement ring and cash I had put away were missing." "You're blaming us? That's awful!" A wrist was pulled up to her eyes, but her glaring gaze betrayed her. "I always kept the ring in the same place and the cash was just withdrawn for a trip. There's no way I'd forget." "So what? Everyone forgets things. Are you accusing us of theft?" "I thought it might be theft, so I had the police come over then too. I filed a police report. Then I found a camera hidden near the shelves." Her evident agitation at the mention of the camera and money was understandable. After all, the only people who had entered my home at the time were my son and daughter-in-law. "Why was there a hidden camera? How did you know when I was going on a trip? I never told you about my travel plans. The fingerprints on your room and this camera will clear things up." "I'm not at fault. I just borrowed a little money from family, and you pushed a dilapidated house on us. I'm the victim here, suffering mental harm, and it's not a crime among family, right?" No matter what they say about family or daughter-in-law, it only brings me disgust. Borrowing without permission is what you call borrowing? Am I the victim? Family, so no crime? You should think more about your words and whom you're speaking to before you speak. I glanced at my son's wife, unable to read her expression. It's frightening how unpredictable a cornered person can be. When she suddenly grabbed a pair of scissors and started yelling, "What joy do you get from doing this to your daughter-in-law? Unbelievable! Being married and a part of the family doesn't give you a free pass to do whatever you want. Have you forgotten what you said?" She tried to attack me with the scissors, but the police officers apprehended her on the spot for attempted harm. Despite leniency from the police and a fine, she seemed dissatisfied. "Why should I pay a fine for that old lady? I don't have that kind of money, so you pay it." Still no sign of remorse. You should take responsibility for your actions. As the deadline for the fine approached, her calls became incessant. Please cancel the legal proceedings. It's just a small mistake by your cute daughter-in-law. Stop repeating yourself. Reflect on what you've done. Eventually, I blocked her number due to constant calls. She failed to pay the fine by the deadline and was arrested. Now I still receive letters from her filled with complaints and money requests. Meanwhile, my son was fired due to poor performance and attitude, ignoring company warnings. They lost the house I had given them and couldn't rent from the company anymore. I heard he tried to work at a factory with dormitories, but his work ethic hadn't changed, and he was fired for producing defective products. He then desperately approached his sister, making a scene at her workplace, begging for a job. The hospital was briefly in chaos until security and her doctor boyfriend escorted him out, warning him the police would be called next time. Hearing this from my daughter, I realized my son was unlikely to change. But as an adult, he should take responsibility for his life. As for me, I'm enjoying peaceful days, something unimaginable with my son and daughter-in-law around. They're too busy dealing with the police and being unemployed to bother me. I have now finished moving into my dream newly built high-rise apartment, and am living comfortably. I sometimes invite friends over for tea and enjoy our happy conversations. Above all, I am delighted with the convenience of my life. The ease and comfort of living in a high-rise in the middle of town are astounding. The proximity to various shopping destinations has made me feel more active than ever. The recreational classes offered at the community center seem enjoyable, and I sense that I'll be able to enjoy even more hobbies in the future. I chose this high-rise apartment thinking of possibly living with my son and daughter-in-law in the future, and eventually leaving it as an asset. But I'm glad I saw their true nature before gifting any property. Now, I cherish my time and friends, finding happiness in everyday life.